Hey Eastview kids, I'm Joey and I'm really glad you're here. Today, we're continuing with our series, God's Game Plan. Sometimes, God asks us to do things that don't seem to make sense. But you know what? God knows all things, He sees all things, and He uses all things for His glory. And sometimes those things that seem strange are actually part of God's plan for us, if we're brave enough to do it. With that, let's stand up and worship our good God by singing this song.
When I am up, when I am down, when life turns me around, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I be walking in circles in my mind? But I know God will make my path straight. I know I'm gonna shout and praise. My God can be trusted over and again. My God can be trusted over and again. Over and again. When I am up, when I am down, when life turns me around, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I be walking in circles in my mind? But I know God will make my path straight. I know I'm gonna shout and praise. My God can be trusted over and again. My God can be trusted over and again. Over and again. I'm confident. My God can. I'm confident. My God can. I know. God will make my path straight. I know. I'm gonna shout and praise. I know. God will make my path straight. I know. I'm gonna shout and praise. My God can be trusted over and again. 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 Yes, He can. Over and again. I'm confident. My God can. I'm confident. My God can. Over and I can trust Him. Over and again.
Today, we're in the Old Testament book of Judges. We're going to hear about a man named Gideon. Now, he was just an ordinary guy from an ordinary family, but he turned out to be a mighty warrior who led the Israelites to victory because he depended on God. Let's take a look.
Wow, did you see that quarterback? He was so little. I never thought a team like that could actually win a game. Totally inconceivable. Today's big idea is depend on God. We're going to take a look at the play-by-play between Gideon and the Midianites to see just how Gideon depended on God to win his victory. Here are the stats on Team Gideon. Gideon didn't think that he was important, but he is known for depending on God, and he's even listed in the Faith Hall of Fame in the Bible. And here are the stats on the Midianites. The Midianites were a group of people who lived in the desert. They were known as camel-riding robbers, and they had a very strong army. Let's head down to the field. Our correspondents are in the book of Judges, and we'll go over all the major plays.
The game got off to a shaky start with a major turnover. The Israelites stopped following God and started worshiping idols again.
God was not pleased and allowed the mean and cruel Midianites to overpower them. These Midianites would destroy their crops and livestock and land. It was so bad, the Israelites cried out to God for help.
God answered and sent an angel to appear to a man named Gideon. The Lord said, "You are strong. Go and save Israel from the power of Midian. I am sending you."
But Gideon wasn't so sure. He asked, "How can I save Israel? I am in the weakest family, not to mention that I am the smallest guy of the bunch."
The Lord replied, "I will be with you." But Gideon wanted to make sure that the angel really was from the all-powerful God.
Now get ready for some amazing plays. Gideon went and prepared food for the angel. Listen to this. When the angel touched the food with his staff, fire blazed it up and the angel disappeared. Whoa! First miracle down.
Gideon still wanted more proof that God wanted to use him to save Israel. He told God he was going to place some wool on the ground. In the morning, if the wool was wet from the dew, but the ground around it was dry, then Gideon would know that God had chosen him. So the next morning, Gideon saw that the ground was dry, and when he picked up the wool, he squeezed it out and filled a bowl full of water. Second miracle down.
Gideon wanted one more sign. This time, he asked God to make the wool dry and the ground all around it wet. This is exactly what God did. Third miracle down.
Gideon knew that this was the real deal. He gathered the Israelite army to get ready, all 32,000 men. But God told Gideon that there were too many men to go to war.
Say what? There were too many soldiers? How can you have too many soldiers if you're going into battle? Well, God wanted to make sure that everyone knew that this battle would be won not by soldiers, but by the power of God.
So God told Gideon to tell his men, "Those who tremble with fear can turn back. They can leave." So 22,000 men left.
10,000 men stayed, but God said there were still too many men. He told Gideon to take them to the water to get a drink. Those who got on their knees and put their face in the water were to go back to camp. The ones who drank from their cupped hands were to stay and fight.
Gideon was left with only 300 men to fight. That's not a lot of men to fight a battle. But Gideon depended on God. There was no question this was going to be God's victory.
Gideon gave his men trumpets and jars with a torch inside. During the night, the Israelites took their positions along the Midianite camp.
They blew their trumpets and smashed the jars. They held their torches up and shouted, "A sword for the Lord and Gideon."
The Midianites did not know what to do. They were so frightened and confused, they panicked. They started fighting each other and ran away.
So the Israelites defeated the Midianites. They didn't win because of their huge army or because of their weapons. They won because they depended on God.
Today's big idea: depend on God.
Hey kids, it's time for a memory verse halftime break. Listen as I say the whole verse. Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, announces the Lord. I want you to enjoy success. I do not plan to harm you. I will give you hope for the years to come. Okay, now we're going to add the second part. See if you can follow along. Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, announces the Lord. I want you to enjoy success. Got it? Let's do that one more time. Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, announces the Lord. I want you to enjoy success. Great job. Keep working on it. We're going to add more to it next week.
It's time for touchdown trivia. Make a touchdown by answering the questions correctly before time runs out on the clock. It's go time! Question 1. Who did God call to lead the Israelites against the Midianites? Joshua or Gideon? Gideon. Question 2. On the first morning, the fleece was dry or wet? It was wet. Question 3. How many men did God allow to fight? 300 or 10,000? Only 300. Last one. Gideon gave his men 3 items to use in their attack. A jar, a torch, and what else? A sword or a trumpet? A trumpet. Boom! Touchdown!
Huddle up. In the game of life, you have to choose to honor God with your words and actions. There are times when a situation comes up and it's like a defensive end running after you, and you don't want to be tackled. So you have to think fast. What are you going to do? It's time for You Make the Call. I'll give you a situation and then follow it up with different options to choose from. Here's the situation. You have a friend that doesn't go to church. You want to invite him, but you don't know what to say. What do? A, just forget it. He probably wouldn't want to go anyway. Or B, during lunch, talk about the fun things you get to do at church. Choice C, pray about it. Then ask your parents to set up a play date that includes bringing your friend to church. Now, you make the call. A, B, or C. Listen up, team. If you chose A, hit the bench and get your head in the game. Everybody needs Jesus. If you chose B, you got a great start. But don't just talk about church. Invite your friend to church and tell him about Jesus. If you chose C, touchdown! You prayed and depended on God to help you invite your friend. Thanks for playing You Make the Call.
Hey, go for the touchdown and depend on God.
Hey kids, let's recap today's story. God chose Gideon to lead the Israelites to victory. In a really strange battle, Gideon wins with a very small number of warriors. They didn't win because of their huge army or because of their cool weapons. They won because they depended on God. Now, I'm going to leave you with some questions to talk about as a family. Press pause, read them together, and then have a little talk about it. We'll see you next week.